Well, basically, wait. What do I want to be on mute? Wait, I want to be muted. Okay, Mr. Pfeiffer, I have everyone in so far, but I do have a couple more coming in every once in a while.
Okay. We'll get started in about a minute, and then we'll get started with a prayer, and then
Okay, sounds good.
good evening, everyone. It's good to see you all. I hope you all got a chance to see the video that we sent out to try to tell you, give you an idea of what we've been doing and what we plan on doing in the future. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight to ask some questions, get some clarification. We will do our best to answer those for you. Some of it for what's coming up in the future may not be exactly clear, but also we'll get an idea of some things that you might be concerned about so that we can plan for that in the future. We're keeping you all muted so that everybody can hear the answers to the questions. The one thing with Zoom is when, if you have people unmuted and there's background noise, it cuts into the person talking. So we're gonna do that. If you have a question, please use the chat box. So if you click on the chat at the either bottom or top of your screen and type your question in, Mrs. Salve is going to let me know what those questions are, and we will answer them in the order that we get them. So I appreciate everybody coming out tonight, and Monsignor, if you would start with a prayer, that would be fantastic.
Good evening, and we begin with all things of prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. We do begin with a prayer. And we ask God from all our hearts to help each and every one of us, to give our best, to assist one another, to support what we do and encourage the blessing that makes St. Thomas More a true gift for each and every child who comes to us. And we make this prayer with all our hearts. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen. Thank you, Monsignor. I see we have several teachers online, so I really have to start out by just thanking them for all of the work that they've done. As I said in the video, we literally transitioned within a day from face-to-face teaching to online teaching, which is quite a challenge, and they did a fantastic job. So I just really have to give a big thank you to all my teachers who just did a fantastic job of working with students and helping students during this challenging time. So thank you to all the teachers for everything that you've done. Hey, Mrs. Salve, do we have any questions?
Yes. So one of the parents was asking about more bread statements. When would they be receiving their more bread statements?
We're currently been working on those in terms of what where they currently are at. I know I've talked to Mrs. Hodrick, who's been leading that up, so I know they're working on them. I would imagine they would be coming out shortly. I don't have an exact date, but I will find out and send that information out to everybody, so that everybody has that information.
And okay, and the next question, can you talk a little bit about the beginning of the year? I'm getting a couple questions in regards to the beginning of the year, what it might look like, what are our plans?
Sure. We are starting August 31st is our first day of school. We are planning to be live in school, so that is our plan. I don't have all the details of exactly what that might look like. It'll be a little bit different. It seems like even if we go into the green, we'll still have to wear masks. So students would have to wear masks in school, as so will teachers. To make that happen, we may have to not have lunch in the main cafeteria. We may have to eat in our classrooms. We're going to limit the movement throughout the hallways, so we're going to have to stagger times that kids would move. We're going to look at Mr. Roman's putting together a plan for recess, and so we can kind of spread that out as well. So those are some of the main things we've been working on, but we do plan on being we plan on being face-to-face in the beginning. However, we're going to still be utilizing the platforms that we've been using online. So that if we did have, for whatever reason, if we had to transition to an online environment at some point, we would be ready to do that very quickly and seamlessly. Those are things that we'd be working on over the summer with our teachers to make sure we have a common format so that we're ready to do that if that would happen.
Okay, any update for First Communion?
I'm going to defer that to Monsignor. Have you heard anything about First Holy Communion?
We are meeting. We are trying to do our best to do as much as we can for the children as soon as we can. But at this point, we do not have an answer. We're working on it, though, very carefully.
Thank you, Monsignor.
Why wasn't More Bread program goal requirement readjusted after the program shut down in March, 6 weeks before April 30th?
The reason was our fiscal year and when we need to have that information. So that was something that Mrs. DeFulvio and Mrs. Hodrick had talked to me about, that we had to have those numbers in at a certain time so that we could meet the requirement that we have for hitting the budget timeline.
Is there any discussion of kids doing some in-person instruction and some online, something that would limit the amount of time each person spends in the classroom?
Well, that's a good question. We've been talking about a lot of things. So in terms of have we talked about it? Yes. From a practical standpoint, in terms of both parents working and things like that, I don't really see that as a viable option, because some parents won't have the ability to stay home with their child if we had to do some type of hybrid situation. If we were forced to do that, certainly we would be ready to move in that environment, but we're really not planning to do that unless we absolutely have to.
Will students be social distancing in the classrooms next year?
That's a good question. We're looking at the square footage of our classrooms and the class sizes. I can't guarantee that it would be 100% that they'll all be 6 feet apart at this point. That's why we were going to need to require having masks on in that situation. But we're certainly trying everything that we can to make sure that happens. They're as far apart as possible.
That's my last question so far.
One about preschool children wearing masks. That's yours, Mrs. Salve.
Oh, there is? I don't see that one.
Yeah.
Okay. we're not quite sure yet. We're thinking that that's going to be pretty difficult for the preschool to be able to wear masks properly. So we're going to continue to look at that and obviously look at the guidelines that are coming out, just like we're doing with the school. But we're not too sure on what it look like for preschool. As soon as we have some more definite answers on that, we will let you know. But we do understand that, the preschool will have difficulties with that.
See a question about restrictions on after-school programs like Girl and Boy Scouts. If we're open, they'll have the same. They'll have the same guidelines that we're following, but we're very fortunate with our facilities that we have space. We can open up rooms downstairs for sure to create more space for people. So we would be asking any group that's in there, any after school activity, to follow the same guidelines that we're following. I see some questions about challenges with wearing masks. I certainly understand that. When we get kids outside and we want to get them out as much as possible, that would be a place where they could, that they wouldn't have to necessarily wear their masks if we can keep the activities, keep them spread out throughout the activities. That'll give them a break for that. But again, that's definitely something we will look at. Is there a safe way that we can give them a break from wearing their mask? Those types of things. I know, having been wearing masks for a long time now, that I can certainly understand that. I see a question about kindergarten testing. Mrs. Salve, do you want to talk a little bit? We just set some of those dates. You want to talk about that?
My internet must be slow. I'm freezing. What's of course, what's the question?
The question is, will there be kindergarten testing prior to kindergarten? What's that process going to look like?
Yes, we're looking to kindergarten screening and setting the dates. We're actually meeting about that, and we'll have information coming out to you on Monday in regards to that and setting times and dates. I'm trying to think. It will look very similar. So we're going to try and do basically the same process, but of course we will ask the parents and children to wear masks during that process, and we'll follow our procedures that we have in place. But we are looking to do that as soon as possible.
There's a question about using the apps over the summer. Mrs. Sell, can you answer that?
Sure. We will be sharing a communication with all the parents before the end of this week. An email will be sent to you with summer learning resources, which will include information about all of the apps, how to access them from home, if there are usernames or passwords that are required, as well as end dates for when those apps will no longer be available for us to be able to prepare for the upcoming school year. Most of them are available through the end of July. So please check your email. It's a comprehensive pre-K through rising 8th grade students, a list for all students and all kinds of learning resources.
Thank you, Mrs. Sell. There was a question about extended care. Will that run? Yes. Again, we're going to provide more space. We're actually looking at moving that into the lower level of the building for next year. So that'll give us some more space to spread kids out. So that's that. Yes, we will have an extended care program. Will students be getting masked with their uniforms? Yes, that is the plan. We're currently working on how we can provide that. We've reached out to a couple of people already to see how we're going to be able to provide that, and we will be able to do that, to provide everyone with a mask for the fall. CYO sports programs. Unfortunately, I don't have any information on that, so I would imagine we will follow what other schools are doing in terms of sports. If they're running their sports programs, we will still be able to run our sports programs. I have not heard a lot of information about the sports in the fall at this point, so I don't have a lot of information on that. The More Bread program. You can still get more bread at this point. I will put information out, Mrs. DeFulvio. If you call her on an appointment basis, she will get you the more bread that you need and be able to either meet you here at the church or set up a convenient way to meet with you. So Mrs. DeFulvio will be able to provide that for you. So I will send that information out to parents this week. There's a question about the resurgence of COVID-19. Yeah, if that would happen, that's part of what our summer professional development is going to be with our teachers, is how we can make sure that it's a seamless transition from a face-to-face right into an online environment for a period of time if we would have to do that. We're certainly hoping we don't have to, but we will be ready if we do have to do that. There's a good question about social distancing on the buses. I have not heard anything yet about that. Honestly, I believe that will be quite challenging to do that on buses, given the way bus routes are set up. But I have not heard anything from the public schools about the social distancing on buses at this point. There's a question about cleaning being done once school is back in session. Our custodial staff has done a fantastic job of getting the right equipment to be able to clean. They have sprayers and things like that that they use so that it adheres to any surface so that it kills any germs that are there. They use hospital grade cleaners, and it's safe as well, it's environmentally safe. So they've really done a nice job of doing that. We'll have a strict protocol in place to make sure everything is cleaned completely every day. So. Sorry, there's a lot more people that are coming in that I'm trying to let in here, so I apologize for trying to take this on. Mrs. Salve is having a few issues with her internet.
Mr. Piper, there's some questions about report cards. Would you like
I'm going
me
to come
to
back.
address
I'm going to go out and come back in.
Okay. Yes, Mrs. Sell, if you wouldn't mind, that would be great.
So we are working on report cards. I believe our timeline, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Piper, is that June 12th, they will be posted. They'll be in an online format published on option C. And we will be sending out an email regarding that with directions as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Sell. There was a question about will we be offering hot lunches. I doubt it. I haven't talked to Mrs. Hoeing, who runs that at this point yet. But I would imagine we're going to have something that is portable to be able to bring to the classroom. So you'll be able to buy lunches, but I'm not quite sure what she'll be able to provide at that point. It'd probably be certain sandwiches. It could be hot sandwiches like hot dogs and chicken patties and those kind of things. But beyond that, I don't have all the information yet. I have not talked to Mrs. Hoeing yet about that. Question on when will yearbooks be handed out? As soon as we get them in. So there's been a holdup with the yearbooks. So they've been taking longer than normal with that. So as soon as we get them, information will come out as to how we can distribute those to everybody. I am recording this. Somebody who was in the waiting room for a while asked about that. Yes, and we will post the recording of it so people can get all the questions that were there before they were able to come in. There's a question about COGAT scores being mailed home. Mrs. Rush, can you answer that?
So it's something that we're going to need to look at in terms of, I think that in the past they went home with I know in the past they went home with the report cards. So that is certainly something that we will plan to make sure that the information is distributed.
Thank you. Question, if a child tests positive for COVID-19, what will be the protocol? And as the person stated, the CDC guidelines are constantly being updated. There would be a period of time that we would have to close to sanitize the school in order to make sure that was taken care of. So we'll be following those CDC guidelines at that point. Question is, will students still have specials? Yes, they will. Again, we're looking at the movement of students and making sure that we don't have a bottleneck of kids in the hallway. So we'll be transitioning them in a different way, but we will still have our specials. There's a question, if we decide to, if for some reason the rules that we have to follow are unacceptable, what is the time frame to withdraw? Well, at any point you can withdraw. Our policy does have, at this point, you would lose a portion of the enrollment fee that you would have, but at that point, you can withdraw your student if you see that the rules are not to what you think is appropriate. Certainly, I would appreciate if you would give me a call so that we can talk about it before you would do that. Question, will the kids still be going to Mass as a school on holy days? Not as a whole school. That would be too many students at one time, so we would have to split that up. Again, I don't have the exact details on that, but we would be splitting up the number of kids who would show up, so we would have to split that. We already do a lot of just grade level masses, so that would be something that we would continue, but we wouldn't be able to have the whole school attend Mass at that point. Good question. A parent asked if there will be an option for students to go fully virtual. If that is up to the parent, yes, that will be an option. So certainly reach out to us, and we will certainly make sure that we can accommodate that. Question, if we would go to some virtual, some classroom swapping, Would there be an attempt to keep families on the same schedule? I'm not sure. I'd have to really look at that. Certainly, if we could, we certainly would. But given the number of different combinations of families, that would probably be challenging. I don't really see, honestly, that being an option for schools. Just again, because parents really don't have anywhere to put their child if they're sometimes in school and then sometimes not in school. I've heard that, but I really don't see the ability to make that happen for schools. And it's not something I would be in favor of for sure. There's a question on the tuition rate for non-parishioners. So as we said in the video, the parishioner rate's now $4,700, and there's a $1,500 non-parishioner fee that goes with that. Because also, as we said, the church certainly subsidizes tuition. Half the tuition is paid for by the church, so that is why we have the non-parishioner fee. Question was, are these new rules set in stone or can they change? Yes, they can definitely change. We're getting new information all the time. Believe me, if we can lighten up on anything, we certainly will, as long as we can keep the students safe. So yes, the new information for schools is coming out all the time, and as they do, we will send information out if there are any changes to anything. These really aren't rules. These are ideas that we're trying to fit with the guidelines that we currently have. Good question. If STM is forced to close for various COVID reasons, will virtual learning be similar to the past spring, or will things be different? Yes, they will be different. That's again what we're going to be working on over the summer. We want to be all on the same page. We tried as best we could to get all the teachers to using similar formats and things like that, but it certainly was challenging since we couldn't really bring them in to meet with them at that point. But that's something we'll be looking at improving over the summer, so that if we do have to go that route, we'll be better prepared for that. Is there a plan if class sizes need to be limited? We really wouldn't have the space if we had to split a class into 2 different classrooms at this point. I don't see that as a viable option. Certainly we're looking at any way we can keep students as far apart as possible, but it really doesn't seem to be a viable option for us at this time. Will we have mass on the first day of school? Honestly, we haven't gotten that far to talk about that. So that I would imagine we will, but it probably will look, as I said, we can't have the whole school there, so it's going to need to look different for sure.
Like 2 weeks.
Yeah, so that'll definitely look different. Thank you to the parent who reached out and asked if there's anything parent volunteers can do to help with any of these changes. We certainly will need parents to help out as much as we can. Certainly volunteers, in over the lunch period again, if they can, give teachers a break or help with the, keeping students separated during the recess time would definitely be helpful. That is definitely what we're working on right now, is to find out what, are there different roles that parents can play at this point. So that information will be coming out over the summer as well. So there was a question about, would we open more aggressively? I'm assuming that means not having masks, if parents would waive their legal right. I don't really have an answer to that. That's something we would have to work with the diocese and see what their guidance is. So we definitely would have to look at that. We certainly want to keep kids safe. So we'll be looking at whatever information we have at that point, and use that as a basis as well. If we end up going back to virtual school, will all subjects be included? Yes. So that, we're going to try. Our initial thinking at this point is we'll try to keep the school day as normal as possible for students, given understanding that they will be at home. But certainly we want to keep them moving in the same way as possible at that point. Question, if we have green phase by then, why will there still be a mask requirement? At this point, that is still part of the green phase, the social distancing and the mask, especially if you have interactions with people. So that, again, if that changes, certainly we will follow that as well. How will children find out about their homeroom teacher? I believe I have to talk more with Monsignor, but we're going to probably have to give that information out ahead of time. So, since we won't be able to have everybody in mass at the same time. Question, is there any consideration given to the psychological and physical effects having to wear masks all day? Certainly if that is something that comes up, I have not heard that yet, but certainly we will be looking at anything. We don't want to hurt children by what we do. We want to make sure that they're all safe. How many kids will need to be in each class? I don't think, Mrs. Rush, if I'm not mistaken, we have no classes bigger than 21. Is that correct? Okay, so our biggest class is 21. Most of them are actually smaller than that. Question, if a child cannot tolerate wearing a mask for emotional social reasons, would they be required to do schooling virtually? We'd have to have a conversation about that. I'm not sure I can make a blanket statement on that. Certainly, again, we're going to look at every child's need and the safety of the rest of the students before we would be able to make a decision on that. Are we expecting to have pre-order of school supplies only? No, not only, but they will certainly be available as they were before. I don't know, Mrs. Rander, do you have anything more to add on the school supplies?
Yes, we will be putting together the school supply list as usual, and those will be available to you in the next couple of weeks. We will go ahead and order as usual and hope that everything comes in on time. But of course, we will have to see if there will be any back orders or anything. But we will definitely move forward with the supply list, and we have some stock already available, and we should be fine to have everyone start with what they need.
Thank you, Mrs. Rander. Will there be a Meet the Teacher night? I hope so. Certainly, we're going to try to do everything the way not the way we've been doing them, but having the events that we've had. It may need to look a little different. It may be staggered out over a longer period of time so that we can utilize bigger spaces. But certainly that is something we want to keep doing. Question, how do we get meds back from the nurse's office? The nurse gave the medications to the teachers to put in the bag for you to pick up from when you hand in your iPad and your supplies. We're going to give you back your supplies. It should be in there. If for some reason you did not get them back, please call us and we will make sure that you get the meds back. Would gym class be modified so that a mask could be avoided? Yes. Yeah, that's not something you can be running around with the mask on. Thank you for that question. Question is, do kindergarten students wear uniforms? No, they do not. So they're the group that is not required to wear uniforms. So we want them to wear comfortable clothes. Good question. If a family is unable to make the laptop drop off this week, please just either email me or contact the office, and we'll make an arrangement to make sure you can get back your drop off. If a child doesn't wear a mask, will they be sent home? I, I don't know the answer to that yet. It depends on what our guidelines are. Obviously, if that is a guideline and we need to uphold that for the safety of everyone, we certainly would have extra masks available if they forgot their mask. So we would, we would try to be as understanding as possible for the child's for how they feel. But if that's the rule, then then we would probably have to ask a parent to pick them up if they were not wearing it. And if there's a reason, again, certainly let us know, and we will try to work through that. Talks about summer camps, keeping kids in small groups but not requiring masks. From what I understand, if you're outside, that's a different rule than whether you're inside. Question, how do you justify raising tuition while simultaneously offering less of the normal STM experience? I'm not sure we will be offering less of the experience. It may look a little bit different, but we're still going to be giving students as much of the same experience as we can possibly. Unfortunately, our bills have not stopped, so we did everything we could to try not to raise it. We didn't raise it last year, so we're continuing. We worked really hard, but that we still needed to pay our bills. Vacation Bible School. I talked to Mr. Damitz today actually about that. They're going to have virtual Bible school, so more information will be coming out about that. It'll still be the same time period that they initially had, begin right after, I believe it's right after the 4th of July week. So more information will be coming out about Vacation Bible School. Field trips in the fall. Again, I don't know at that point if we can do field trips and places are allowing us to be there. Certainly we want to keep having those experiences for kids. So that'll be basically based upon what the places we normally go to require, and if that's still a possibility. If I missed anybody's question, please resubmit the question. I was trying to keep up with them as best as I could, and I apologize. I didn't skip any on purpose. So if there is a question that you had earlier that I did not answer, please resubmit that. What type of masks are we looking at, and do we need to pay for them? No, you will not need to pay for them. We're looking at cotton masks because from everything we've looked at, those are the most comfortable at this point. Why isn't a hybrid approach being considered? It's not that we aren't considering it, but if we can avoid it, we certainly would. Again, because you have parents who are working full time, and if their kids are supposed to work from home and they have nobody there to watch them, that would be a big burden on the parents.
Mr. Pfeiffer, are you able to let anyone else in? I think there's some parents waiting.
I don't see anybody else waiting. I did just recently put some in.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. If masks are
And
not,
I'm back for now.
if masks are not required in daycare, why are they required in school? Because of the age of the students. When they're younger, it's actually not even appropriate for them to have it on everything that we've read about that. Can we bring in homemade masks? Yes, you can. If that's something that you find is more comfortable, certainly yes. But again, you do not have to. Has STM considered any new academic diagnostic tools to gauge student progress if we continue virtual learning? Mrs. Rush, can you talk about the tools that we currently use? Because we do currently use many tools for diagnostic purposes.
Sure. So some of the tools that we have in place already we have been able to use them in this virtual learning environment and have had really significant gains. So we have Dreambox, we have Fast Forward. This past year we used iStation and Lexia as well. We also have Reading Assistant Plus. There are a number of tools that are giving us really good data to determine student growth. So does that answer that question? New academic. So actually, Fast Forward and Reading Assistant Plus are new to us this year, and as I mentioned, like we are seeing huge gains in those, and we are using Dreambox in new ways to reinforce being able to measure that growth as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Rush. How will students find out who their teacher will be next year? Knowing would put kids at ease. I agree. We will. Again, I have to. Monsignor unfortunately had to leave. He had an emergency situation he has to take care of. I will be talking with him. We will put that out probably online. We will open that up and you will be able to find out who your teacher is prior to the start of the school year. Hybrid would allow for smaller classes and better distancing. I certainly understand that, but I'm not sure that would work for the bulk of our parents next year. But again, it's not something we are not looking at, but I'm not sure that'll be possible. What is the tuition for next year? It's increased by $100. It's $4,700 a year. Will you require the parents to wash cloth masks daily? That certainly will be our expectations, that they will do that so that, but obviously I can't control that or police that. Yeah, a parent it just said what I had talked about. Hybrid will not work for families with full-time working parents. Thank you for that. I understand. Have we considered different fundraising options if we cannot social distance, for example, walkathon? Yes, Mrs. Fink is looking at all kinds of different options. Walkathon being outside, it might not look exactly the same, but we feel confident that walkathon is one of the fundraisers that we would be able to continue to do. It may not be all in one day. We're looking at different options with that. Will 7th and 8th grade students be with the same classes all day to limit interaction? No, they will not. We're going to be staggering times for them to move throughout the hall so that there's limited interactions in the hallway. Does the diocese dictate protocol for all Catholic schools, or is STM able to determine its own rules scheduled for the fall? The diocese definitely has guidelines that we need to follow. Given different schools' situations, there is some leeway within that, but it's not something we can just go rogue on and do our own thing. Will there be temperature checks for the students and staff? I don't know that at this point. That's one of the things we are looking at, the feasibility of that. So I don't have a clear answer on that. Will kids stay in the same classroom and teachers move to them? Probably not. We did talk about that for specials, but we haven't worked out any of those pieces yet. Will we be able to purchase multiple uniform masks? I would imagine yes, because we will have extras available. Again, I don't have the details at this point, but we will be giving every student one mask, so they will have at least one. Question, won't we have to rely on public school schedules for busing? Somewhat, yes. But the public schools have been good with working with our schedule as long as they can. Is there a chance that certain grades would have to wear masks? I don't believe so. We're looking at if it's something that is needed, then all of our students would have to wear masks if that's what the requirement is to keep our kids safe. Will new student kindergarten have meet the teacher? Yes. Again, I don't know exactly what that will look like, but it's very important that the new kindergarten students get to meet with their teachers. That initial meeting is very important. I'm sure our kindergarten teachers would definitely agree with that. So yes, we will figure that out because we know how important that is. How many hours will the hybrid days be? I don't know at this point exactly what that would look like. So I don't have that schedule. I'm sorry, I can't answer that clearly. Is it possible for teachers to travel to classrooms in the upper grades instead of students moving to a different classroom? For some classes it might be, but for like our science classes that use labs and materials that are in the classroom, that wouldn't be possible. If a student tested positive, would the entire school close? Yes, for a period of time. At this point, I think if I remember correctly, it's a 2-day period. We would be sanitizing the whole school, but those guidelines are continuing to be updated, so we will follow those at that time. I don't understand why children are being required to wear masks when there is no evidence the virus is affecting children. Again, we're trying to follow the CDC guidelines as closely as we can, and at this point, that is one of their requirements. Will we be informed if someone in the class grade tests positive? Yes. Similar to what we do when the student gets whooping cough. So yes, we will definitely let parents know. If someone's family member tested positive, will the child be quarantined for 14 days? Again, I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to check the guidelines on that. If that is the guideline, then yes, that is what we would require. If the school does close, do you anticipate that virtual learning would take place on those days while you were disinfecting? Yes, that absolutely would happen. That's our plan to make sure we can move seamlessly into that into a virtual environment, because at this point the possibility of that happening is still very real. Don't you think it's damaging to the kids when they can't see their teacher's face and expressions? yes, honestly, but again, we have to make sure everybody stays safe. Teachers certainly are more susceptible to getting sick. Not mentioning any ages or anything, but then certainly younger students are, given everything that I've read at this point. Will students begin bringing their iPads home regularly? Well, we already had grades 3 through 8 who do bring their iPads home regularly. We haven't really talked about if the younger kids will continue to bring them home. So that's something we'll have to talk about. That's a good question. Have there been any discussions with school districts that share buses with another school? For example, Emmaus has pickups and drop-offs before STM pickup and drop-off. No, the public schools, we've reached out to the public schools at this point. They are not ready to share that information. I don't think they have everything set up for themselves yet at this point. Thank you for the person who said thank you for all that we're doing for the children. Person says, so we are doing all this for the adults at the expense of the children's psychological and emotional health. Certainly that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to keep everybody safe for sure. Thank you to the parent who points out that we're not making these rules. We're just trying to follow the rules that are placed upon us. And we're trying to do the best with the least amount of disruption for the students and everyone else. But we certainly want to make sure everybody is safe. When do I anticipate knowing what the instructional model will look like? I wish I had a clear answer on that. I would hope by the beginning of August at the latest. I'm hoping we get much more clarity before then. Frankly, I hope it just goes away in the summer and we don't have to worry about it, but I'm not sure that's a possibility. Thank you for the parents who are thanking us for thinking through all this. We still have a long way to go, but thank you very much. Question, wouldn't we need to bring iPads home every day because of the possibility of events changing daily? Again, it's possible. The younger students, it may not be as necessary, but certainly that's something we are looking at. Question from a person who I let in late. I'm sorry about that. Kids will still be required to wear masks in green. That is still the requirement under green. Again, if something changes, believe me, I don't want to have students wear masks, but if that is a requirement, that's something we would have to do. Will there be another parent meeting in the summer when plans are more firm? Yes. So that I can, yes. So I'm not giving you a lot of I'm not quite sure yet answers. Thank you for that. If we decide to do virtual till no masks are required, is that an option? Yes, we will have that ability if a parent chooses to have their child, whether it's they don't want their child to be exposed at all to any possibility, or they don't like the mask, whatever the reason. Yes, we will have that opportunity. Are kindergarten children required to wear masks as well? At this point, yes. That is one of those areas that we're continuing to look at, but yes, everything I've read at this point that would be required for them. How would virtual option work? Will they be listening to the active class? I don't know at this point. That is what we're going to be working on over the summer, as to how we can give that best experience for those who may choose that option to stay at home. As a reminder, I am recording this, so we will post this afterwards, so that if you missed anything, you can go back and listen to all the answers that we gave. Good question. If we choose virtual and things start to get better, can we move back into the classroom? Absolutely. That's why we're going to be keeping it as seamless as possible, so that you can easily move back into the classroom if, and when things get better. Question is the more bread goal still the same? Yes, that is still the same. Will the children who choose virtual learning have all the same access to kids in school? I'm not quite sure I fully understand the question, but they will be able to contact students. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I don't want to give an answer that's not. So if you can clarify the question, I can probably better answer that. Will I still do my morning announcements virtually next year? No. Thank you for that. But what we are looking at actually is having our students do virtual morning announcements next year. So we just actually talked about that today, and we're going to work with students who may be interested in creating a format that works for them and for us, and they can continue to do that virtually. So parents would have access to that, and we would watch those with our teachers once we get that up and running. We think all of our teachers and STM staff are doing an incredible job. Thank you. If our kids need to wear masks to protect our teachers, they will. They're all stronger than we give them credit for. Thank you for that. If students were to start in school option and later decide to change to virtual, is that an option? Yes, absolutely. Our plan is to allow for that based upon what a parent's preferences or situations come up in their lives. Thank you. Your announcements were great and very anticipated, though. Thank you. Sorry, I won't be continuing them. I might do a guest appearance. We'll see how that goes. What about student council for 8th grade next year? We will have student council. Normally, this past year we did the elections in the spring. We will be doing those in the fall. Can you clarify how the virtual learning will work? Do the students watch the classes from home? I don't have that all worked out. At this point, we're going to be working on that over the summer, exactly what that's going to look like. So I'm sorry I don't have the key answers to that. Will kids eat lunch in the classroom? Most likely, yes. They will be eating lunch in the classrooms. And I need to work with Mrs. Hoeing in the lunchroom to figure out how we can provide lunches to them as well. Again, thank you for your thank yous. Thank you to all the administration, teachers, and staff for everything they do for our children, make STM the wonderful school that it is. St. Thomas More completely stepped up to the plate during the pandemic, health emergency, and has done a fantastic job of continuing the learning. Thank you. We worked very hard. The teachers, again, I cannot thank them enough for all their hard work. They did a phenomenal job of working with us, working with parents, working with kids. It was certainly challenging, but that when I talk about the STM difference, it truly is different than other places. Not to put down any other places, but I have many colleagues in other schools, and we were head and shoulders above them. Thank you again for the thank yous. We really appreciate it. Again, the families being supportive and patient with us. The St. Thomas More community is second to none. We have a fantastic community. We are so blessed here at St. Thomas More. Are there any updates on communication? Not quite sure what that question is asking. So if you would please clarify for me, I'm not quite sure what that one is asking me. Will the school psychologist be reaching out to the kids even before the start of school? Our school counselors certainly have been putting together on our website lots of resources for that. So we're going to continue to update those as well. Again, I don't have a clear idea what the start of school is going to look like, but your feedback is certainly helping us as we're looking towards that. Where will students store masks when out on the playground? That's a good question. That's something we will have to take into consideration. I don't have the answer to that right now, but thank you for that question. I really appreciate it. Sorry, maybe it's just late. The question on communion. I'm sorry, I was reading communication, so maybe I misread that. I apologize. We don't have any updates at this point for First Holy Communion for the second graders. We will definitely keep you posted as we hear that information coming from the diocese. We're hoping as soon as possible. How would specials work if children can't leave for lunch? Would they leave for specials? The lunchroom, because of how many kids would be in one space, that is why we most likely will not be having lunch in the lunchroom unless, again, something changes drastically. The specials would be a much smaller classroom. When is the first day of school? At this point, August 31st is our first day of school. Labor Day is much later this year, so we start right before Labor Day. Will you be placing hand sanitizers throughout the building? Yes, thank you for that question. We have more stations, and teachers will have them in their classrooms as well. Would the in-school children have a full day? Yes, that is the plan. Will water fountains not be permitted? That's a good question. I haven't thought about that. That's a good question. I will look into that. Are volunteers able to volunteer? Yes, as long as they meet all the requirements that we have in terms of background checks and everything like that, and follow our guidelines. Will amount of kids on buses be limited? I don't know the answer to that. The school districts have not let us know at this point. I think they're still trying to figure that out as well. If students have to eat in the room, will lunch still be offered for purchase? Yeah, at this point, yes, I believe we'll be able to do that. I don't know what exactly we will be able to offer. It'll have to be something that can be easily transported. Doesn't seem like a good idea to have volunteers in school. Will they have health checks and temperature checks? That's a good question. We will have to look into that. We certainly don't want to close our school down to our parent community, but that would be something. Maybe volunteers, as we look at temperature checks, there might be everybody at that point, but that's certainly something that we will be looking at. Thank you for that question. Yes, I could have changed it since Monsignor had to leave so I could look straight at it from the beginning. I was wondering why my neck was hurting. How will the use of bathrooms be monitored to make sure social distancing is happening? We limit the use of students at the bathroom anyway, but thank you for that question. That's another thing we will need to take a look at. Will extended care be offered? Yes, we will still be offering extended care. Trying to use my teacher wait time up. There we go. See, you wait long enough, you get another question. Has there been any consideration given to foregoing the mask requirement and allowing kids to be in school without masks if parents so choose, and instead allowing those who wish to continue to social distance to learn virtually? So instead, reverse the requirements. I want to make sure all options are being considered before a decision is made. Yes, we will continue to consider everything. Certainly, again, I'm not a huge fan of the masks being required, but we have to follow guidelines that we have. And we want to make sure that all kids are protected. But again, no final decisions have been made at this point. Information continues to change, but we will continue to always put the safety of our students first. Temperature checks will be a good idea if this could be implemented so that the risk of infection is reduced. I agree. We have to look at that piece. Would we accept donations of cleaning supplies? Outside of hand sanitizer, probably not. But if if you mean hand sanitizer, certainly we would accept that. But we use a very specialized product for the other cleaning that we do, so that we're making sure that we keep everyone safe within the building. It looks like our questions have died down here. I just want to thank everyone for coming this evening, for sharing with us your concerns and ideas, for letting us share what we're thinking about at this time. When we have more clear-cut information, we will certainly do this again, so that we can keep our parents informed of what we're doing as we know it at this point. We really appreciate everything that our parents do for us, and as you can hear, we are going to make sure we're going to do everything we can to keep the children safe, and continue to have them learn in the best way we can at this point. Thank you so much. Monsignor was going to do the final blessing, so if we could just say a Hail Mary to end up, that would be great. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you again for coming. We will post this as soon as we get it up, for anybody who may have missed anything. Thank you all for all that you've done, and God bless you, and we look forward to seeing your children in the end of August.